A struggling nurse had no idea who was watching. A billionaire changed her life forever. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Meet Anna Monroe, a young nurse who never thought her life would change in the most unexpected way. It was just another day in the hospital, a place she had grown so familiar with over the past few years. The constant hum of machines, the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes on the tiled floors, and the distant beeping of heart monitors. It was all part of her daily routine. But on this particular day, something felt different. Anna had been assigned to care for a new patient, someone who was very high profile. Grant Carter, a billionaire tech mogul, had been in a coma for nearly 6 months after a devastating car accident. The doctors weren't sure if he would ever wake up, but Anna was determined to do everything she could. She had been given special instructions: treat him with care and talk to him every day. As she entered his private room, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The room was lavishly decorated, a far cry from the sterile room she was used to. He lay there, lifeless, surrounded by machines keeping him alive. Despite his cold, still form, Anna could see the man he once was, a man who had built an empire, but now trapped in his own body. As she adjusted his drip, she gently spoke to him, as she had every day since she was assigned to his care. "I know you probably can't hear me, but I'm here," she said softly, her voice echoing in the otherwise quiet room. "My day's been just like any other, busy, exhausting, but I have to keep going. I'm trying to save enough to help my mom with her medical bills. Life's been tough, but we keep going. That's all we can do, right?" She chuckled lightly, even though there was no one around to hear it. "Maybe you're not really listening, but I'm sure talking to you can't hurt. I bet if you were awake, you'd have a lot of advice for me, huh?" Anna smiled as she continued to carefully tend to his body, wiping his face with a warm cloth. She did this every day, and although Grant hadn't shown any signs of waking up, she felt a connection with him. It was strange. She knew he was a billionaire, but that didn't matter to her. What mattered was the man behind the wealth, the person who had once been full of life and energy. She continued talking, as she always did. "If I ever get the chance, I'd love to show you my sketches. I used to draw all the time, but I've had to put it aside lately. Maybe one day, when I'm able to quit this job, I'll open my own art studio." Anna paused, feeling the weight of her words. She knew that was just a dream, one of the many dreams that had been put on hold due to life's responsibilities. But maybe, just maybe, something would change. As she finished up her shift and prepared to leave, she gave Grant one last glance before walking out of the room. Little did she know that one simple act of kindness, speaking to him every day, would lead to something far beyond her wildest dreams. Grant had been listening. Anna had never expected the simple act of talking to a man in a coma to become so meaningful, but here she was, standing by his bedside every day, caring for Grant Carter. It had been weeks since she started her shift with him, and despite the exhaustion that came with the job, something kept her coming back. It wasn't just the routine, it was the connection she felt, even though he couldn't respond. It was the hope, however faint, that one day he would wake up. One evening, as she sat in her usual spot by his side, wiping his face with a damp cloth, something happened. A soft beep from the heart monitor sounded different this time. Anna stopped, her hand stilling midair. The steady rhythm that had been constant for weeks now had a subtle change. Her eyes widened, and she leaned forward, watching Grant closely. For a moment, she thought it was just her imagination, but then his hand, which had been still for so long, twitched. It was the faintest movement, but it was there. "Grant," she whispered, her heart racing. She didn't want to get her hopes up, but something told her that this was different. She called for the nurse on duty, who came running. "He moved," Anna said breathlessly. "His hand, I swear it moved." The nurse, skeptical at first, checked his vitals and nodded slowly. "It's possible," she said, her voice cautious. "But we'll need to run some tests. Don't get your hopes up." Anna felt a surge of excitement and fear. She had been caring for Grant for weeks, and every day she had hoped. But this small sign, this tiny spark of life, made her believe. The next few days were a blur of tests, doctor's visits, and constant monitoring. But something kept happening. More small movements, his fingers twitching, his eyelids fluttering. Anna couldn't deny it anymore. There was a chance that Grant was waking up. One morning, after another long shift, Anna sat by his side once more. She was tired, but the hope in her heart made it all worth it. As she wiped his forehead with a cool cloth, she noticed his breathing had changed. It was deeper, steadier. Then, with no warning, his eyes snapped open. Anna froze, her breath catching in her throat. He was awake. For the first time in months, Grant Carter was awake. His gaze moved slowly, as if trying to focus, and when his eyes met hers, she felt a jolt of recognition. "Anna," he murmured, his voice hoarse and weak. "Where am I?" The words sent a rush of relief through her body. "You're in the hospital," she said, her voice trembling. "You've been in a coma for a long time." Grant blinked, his mind clearly struggling to piece things together. "A coma," he repeated, confusion and fear clouding his expression. "But how long?" "6 months," Anna replied softly. He looked at her for a long moment, as if trying to understand who she was, before his gaze softened. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for staying with me." Anna's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected gratitude. She had only been doing her job. But hearing him say those words, so weak and vulnerable, struck her deeply. Over the next few days, Grant's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. He was still weak, but his mind was sharp, and his memories began to come back in fragments. He remembered his company, his family, and his life before the accident, but there was something he couldn't quite recall. Anna. She had been with him every day, caring for him, talking to him, but he couldn't remember her from before. It didn't matter to Anna, though. She was just glad he was awake. She was there for him, and that was all that mattered. But as the days passed, their bond grew stronger. Anna learned more about Grant, not just as a billionaire, but as a person. He had built his empire from nothing, driven by a need to prove himself, but he had lost touch with the people around him, including his family. He had always been surrounded by wealth, but he had never truly felt loved. The more they talked, the more Anna realized how much they had in common. They both had dreams they were chasing, despite the obstacles in their way. They both knew what it was like to fight for a better life. As Grant's recovery continued, Anna found herself spending more and more time with him. She hadn't expected to become so attached, but she couldn't help it. There was something about him, something vulnerable, something real. One evening, as they sat together in his room, Grant turned to her, his eyes filled with gratitude and something more. "Anna," he said quietly, "I owe you more than I can ever repay. You gave me a second chance at life." Anna shook her head. "You don't owe me anything," she said softly. "I was just doing my job." But Grant didn't look convinced. "No," he said, his voice firm. "You've done more than that. You gave me hope when I thought I had none. You've made me feel something I haven't felt in years. I don't know how to thank you." Anna looked away, feeling a lump form in her throat. She didn't know what to say. She had never expected to hear words like that from him, let alone feel the way she did. And as the days went by, it became clear that there was more than just gratitude between them. There was a connection, something deeper than either of them had expected. Grant was no longer just a patient to her. He had become someone important, someone she couldn't imagine her life without. As the days passed, Grant's recovery was nothing short of remarkable. He was slowly regaining strength, and each day, the doctors were more optimistic about his future. But for Anna, it wasn't just the medical progress that mattered. It was the bond that had formed between them. What started as simple care had blossomed into something much deeper. They spent hours talking about life, their dreams, their fears. Grant shared stories of building his empire, of the loneliness that had come with wealth and success. Anna, in turn, opened up about her struggles, her hopes for her family, and the art she longed to create. One afternoon, as the sun streamed through the hospital window, Grant turned to Anna with a serious expression on his face. "I don't think I can ever truly thank you for everything you've done for me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But I want to try. I want to give you something." Anna looked at him, surprised. "Grant, you don't have to give me anything. Just seeing you get better is more than enough." Grant shook his head, his gaze unwavering. "No, I insist. You've given me more than I can ever repay. You've shown me kindness when I had none. You've made me believe in the goodness of people again. He paused for a moment, as if searching for the right words. I want to help you. I want to make sure your dreams come true. Anna's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? She asked softly. I know you've always wanted to open your own art studio, he said. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about your art, your dreams. I want to help you make that a reality. Consider it a gift. Anna blinked, not quite understanding what he was offering. Grant, I can't. I mean, that's a huge thing. I don't even know how to. You don't have to figure it all out right now, he interrupted gently. But I've got the resources. I can help you get started. Whether it's funding, connections, or just advice. Whatever you need. Anna's mind raced, but a wave of doubt washed over her. She had spent so many years struggling, fighting, for every little bit of progress, and now someone like Grant was offering to make her dream come true. She didn't know if she deserved it. She didn't know if she could accept such an offer. Grant, I appreciate it more than you know, she said quietly. But I don't want to take advantage of you. Grant smiled, his eyes soft. It's not about taking advantage. It's about giving back. You've done so much for me, Anna. You've helped me find a part of myself I thought I'd lost. I'm just offering the same to you. There was a long silence between them, and Anna could feel her emotions welling up. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone truly saw her. She wasn't just a nurse. She wasn't just a struggling person trying to make ends meet. She was someone who deserved more, who could dream again. But even as the hope began to bloom inside her, another part of her hesitated. She had always been independent. Accepting help, especially from someone like Grant, felt foreign to her. I don't know if I can, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I've been on my own for so long. It's hard to imagine not having to fight for every little thing. Grant reached out, placing a gentle hand on hers. I understand, he said softly. But sometimes, the greatest strength comes from letting someone else in. You don't have to fight alone anymore, Anna. You've already proven your strength. His words hung in the air between them, and Anna felt something stir deep inside her. She had spent so long holding everything together, afraid to ask for help, afraid to trust anyone with her dreams. But now, as she looked into Grant's eyes, she saw something different. Not just the billionaire with endless resources, but a man who had been touched by her kindness, someone who truly wanted to help her succeed. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine what it might be like to accept that help, what it might be like to finally live out the dream she had always kept locked away. As she sat there, holding Grant's hand, she knew that everything was about to change. This was no longer just about healing him. It was about healing herself, too. Anna spent the next few days in a haze of conflicting emotions. Grant's offer to help her achieve her dream was both thrilling and terrifying. She had never imagined that a billionaire like him would take an interest in her. But as the reality of his words began to sink in, a storm of doubts started brewing inside her. Could she really accept his help? Could she trust someone with her dreams, especially someone with so much power and wealth? She had always been independent, relying on no one but herself. The thought of giving up that control made her uneasy. Despite her reservations, Anna found herself back at Grant's side, taking care of him as he continued to recover. Each day, he grew stronger, both physically and emotionally. His gratitude was overwhelming, and he didn't hesitate to remind her of how much she had done for him. Still, Anna kept her distance, not wanting to blur the lines between their professional relationship and something more personal. She knew she had to make a decision, whether to accept Grant's offer and change her life forever, or to keep living in the familiar struggle. One afternoon, as Anna was finishing up her shift, Grant asked her to meet him in his office. It had become a routine of theirs, talking about everything and nothing in the quiet moments after his recovery. She walked into his spacious office, her mind still clouded with thoughts of the future. Grant looked up from his desk, his expression serious but warm. Anna, I've been thinking, he said, motioning for her to sit. I know I've asked a lot of you. I know I've asked you to take a leap of faith, but I believe in you, and I want to help you make your dream come true. Anna stood there, unsure of what to say. Grant, I don't know if I can accept this, she confessed, her voice shaking slightly. It's too much. You've already given me so much. Grant stood up and walked toward her, his eyes full of sincerity. You've given me so much, too, he said softly. You've given me hope, Anna. You've made me believe in something I'd lost, the connection between people. I'm not asking you to accept this because of who I am, but because I believe in what you can do. You deserve this. You deserve to have a life where you're not just surviving, but thriving. His words hit her like a wave, crashing through the walls she had built around herself. Anna swallowed hard, her heart racing. But what about you? She asked. What about what you want? Grant smiled, his gaze softening. I've got everything I could ever need. What I want is to see you succeed. To see you create the life you've always dreamed of. Anna took a deep breath, the weight of his words sinking in. She had spent so many years holding back, afraid of the unknown. But now, staring at Grant, she realized that sometimes the greatest courage was in allowing herself to take the leap. Okay, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'll do it. I'll take the chance. Grant's face lit up with a smile, and for the first time in a long time, Anna felt like she was on the verge of something new. It wasn't just about the art studio anymore. It was about embracing the possibilities that life had to offer, trusting herself, and trusting Grant. She didn't know where this journey would take her, but she knew one thing for sure. It was going to be a journey worth taking. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of plans, meetings, and new opportunities. With Grant's support, Anna was able to take the first steps toward making her dream a reality. He introduced her to contacts in the art world, and soon, she had the resources to open her very own studio. As she stood in the middle of the space, watching as the final touches were added, she couldn't help but smile. This was it. This was her dream coming true. But as she looked around, she realized something even more important. It wasn't just about the art. It was about the life she was creating. It was about the people who had believed in her, the ones who had shown her that kindness and support were the keys to unlocking her true potential. And as she thought about all of that, she knew that this was only the beginning. As the weeks went by, Anna's art studio began to take shape. What had once been a small dream was now a bustling reality, thanks to the unwavering support of Grant. He had introduced her to the right people, connected her with local galleries, and provided the funding she needed to get started. Anna had never imagined that her life could change so dramatically in such a short time. She had always worked hard, but there had been a part of her that believed she would never truly break free from the struggle. Now, standing in her own space, surrounded by the pieces of art she had poured her soul into, she felt a sense of accomplishment she had never experienced before. It wasn't just about the success of the studio, it was about the journey. It was about the person she had become along the way. The walls were lined with her paintings, each one telling a story of hope, resilience, and change. As she looked at each piece, she realized how much she had grown. She wasn't just the nurse who had taken care of a coma patient. She wasn't just someone struggling to make ends meet. She was an artist, and she was living her dream. One evening, after closing the studio for the night, Anna received a message from Grant. He had been busy with business meetings, but he always found time to check in on her progress. His support never wavered, and she appreciated him more than she could say. The message read, "I'm so proud of you, Anna. You're doing amazing things, and I can't wait to see what you'll accomplish next." It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to her. Grant had become more than just a benefactor. He had become a true friend. Someone who believed in her even when she didn't believe in herself. As Anna sat down at her desk, looking over her new business plans and sketches for upcoming projects, she felt a sense of gratitude that she hadn't known before. She thought back to the day Grant had first offered to help her, when she had been uncertain, when she had been scared to accept his generosity. Now, it felt like the best decision she had ever made. The door to the studio opened, and Anna looked up to see Grant walking in, his usual confident stride softened by a warm smile. "I thought I'd stop by to see how my favorite artist is doing," he said, his eyes sparkling with genuine pride. Anna stood up to greet him, a smile spreading across her face. "I'm doing great," she said, her voice filled with a newfound confidence. "Thanks to you." Grant shook his head. "No, Anna. You did this. You worked hard, and you made it happen. I just provided a little nudge." They stood there for a moment, taking in the space, and Anna realized how far she had come. She was no longer the struggling nurse trying to make ends meet. She was a woman who had found her passion, her purpose, and the strength to go after what she wanted. As the conversation continued, Anna found herself feeling more at ease with the idea of accepting help. It wasn't a weakness. It wasn't about being dependent on someone else. It was about recognizing that we all need support sometimes, and that giving and receiving kindness was what made the world go round. That evening, after Grant left, Anna sat in her office and looked at the empty gallery space. It wasn't empty for long, though. As her phone buzzed with messages from clients and art collectors, she realized how much she had accomplished. This was only the beginning. With Grant's support, Anna's dreams were no longer a distant hope. They were becoming a reality, one brushstroke at a time. As Anna's art studio flourished, so did her connection with Grant. They spent more time together, not just talking about business, but also about their personal lives. Anna had always been private about her past, but with Grant, she found herself opening up more and more. She shared stories about her childhood, her dreams, and the struggles she faced after her father's passing. Grant listened intently, offering a shoulder to lean on, always supportive. The bond between them had deepened into something beyond gratitude or business. It was a friendship, one that Anna had never expected but had come to cherish. But even as she felt herself growing closer to Grant, she couldn't shake the lingering fear. The fear that she might lose herself in this new life. She had worked so hard to get where she was, and now that she had the success she had dreamed of, there was a part of her that was still uncertain. Would she be able to keep her independence? Would she still be Anna, the artist who fought for her place in the world, or would she become someone defined by the support of others? One evening, after a long day of meetings and painting, Anna sat in her studio alone, the quiet hum of the lights surrounding her. She stared at the canvas in front of her, not knowing what to paint next. Her thoughts were scattered, and her heart heavy with the weight of everything that had changed. Suddenly, the door to the studio opened, and Grant walked in. He didn't speak right away, just stood in the doorway, watching her for a moment. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he said softly. "I just thought you might need a break." Anna smiled faintly, pushing the canvas aside. "It's been a long day," she replied, her voice tired. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore." Grant stepped into the room, his expression serious. "You're doing exactly what you're meant to do," he said, his voice warm. "You've built something incredible here, Anna. But it's okay to take a break. It's okay to let someone else help you too." Anna looked at him, feeling the truth in his words. She had spent so much time pushing herself to prove that she could do it all on her own. But the truth was, she didn't have to. "I just don't want to lose myself in all of this," she confessed. "I've worked so hard for so long. I'm afraid that if I let go, I'll forget who I am." Grant walked over to her, his presence steady and comforting. He placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch gentle. "You don't have to be afraid," he said softly. "You're still the same person you've always been. Your work doesn't define you, Anna. It's who you are, how you see the world, that makes you special. No matter how successful you become, you'll always be the person who believes in kindness, who believes in the power of art to change lives." Anna felt her heart swell with emotion as she looked up at him. She realized, in that moment, that she didn't have to choose between success and staying true to herself. She could have both. With Grant's support, she could keep building her dream while also remembering who she was at her core. And maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to do it alone. As the days passed, Anna embraced the new rhythm of her life. She still worked hard, still painted late into the night, but now, she allowed herself moments of rest. She started trusting others more, leaning on her team and Grant when she needed to. Their relationship grew even deeper, evolving from friendship into something more. It was in the quiet moments, when they simply shared a cup of coffee or a laugh, that Anna realized how much Grant had come to mean to her. She had never expected to find someone who understood her so completely, someone who not only supported her dreams, but also saw her for who she truly was. One evening, after a particularly long day, Anna found herself in Grant's office again. He was looking over some paperwork, but when he saw her standing there, he smiled. "You look like you could use a break," he said, setting down the papers. Anna nodded, walking over to where he sat. "I do," she admitted, sitting down beside him. "But I'm learning to accept it. I'm learning that I don't have to carry everything on my own." Grant reached out, taking her hand in his. "And you never will again," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. As they sat there, hand in hand, Anna felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't have to be afraid anymore. The future was uncertain, but with Grant by her side, she knew that whatever came next, she would face it with strength, courage, and love. As Anna's life continued to evolve, so did the challenges she faced. The art studio was thriving, but with success came new pressures. She was no longer just an artist. She was a businesswoman. The balance between managing her passion and overseeing the studio's day-to-day operations was becoming increasingly difficult. The constant emails, meetings, and the financial side of things were starting to wear her down. But every time she felt overwhelmed, she reminded herself of why she had started this journey in the first place, to create art and inspire others. One afternoon, as she sat in her office reviewing contracts, the phone rang. It was a call she had been dreading. The gallery she had been working with was pulling out of their upcoming exhibition. The news hit her like a wave, knocking the wind out of her. She had poured so much time and energy into this event, and now it was falling apart. She put the phone down, feeling a lump rise in her throat. How could she fix this? How could she salvage everything she had worked so hard for? Later that evening, as she sat in the studio, staring at the empty canvas in front of her, Grant walked in. He had been a constant source of support, and his presence was always comforting. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice soft but concerned. Anna looked up at him, feeling the weight of her frustration. "The gallery pulled out," she said quietly. "Everything we've worked for, all the plans, the artists, it's all falling apart. I don't know what to do anymore." Grant walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You've built something incredible here, Anna. One setback doesn't erase everything you've accomplished. It's just a bump in the road." Anna sighed, feeling the exhaustion creep in. "I don't know if I can handle it," she admitted. "I thought I was ready for this, but it's so much harder than I ever imagined." Grant sat down beside her, his expression serious but kind. "I know it's tough, but you're not in this alone. You've got a team who believes in you, and you've got me. Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together." His words were a lifeline, a reminder that she didn't have to shoulder everything by herself. For the first time that day, Anna felt a flicker of hope. The next morning, she woke up with a new perspective. She couldn't let one failure define her or the studio. She knew she had to push through, not just for herself but for the artists who depended on her, for the dream she had worked so hard to build. She called the gallery back and arranged a meeting to discuss how they could salvage the exhibition. By the time she arrived at the gallery, she had a plan in mind. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. The gallery director greeted her with a forced smile, but Anna was determined to turn things around. "I understand the situation," she began, "but I'm not giving up on this exhibition. I've put too much into it, and so have the artists. I know we can make this work." The director looked at her, surprised by her resolve. "You're really willing to work through this?" he asked. "Yes," Anna said firmly. "I believe in this exhibition, and I believe in what we're creating. If we can adjust the timeline, we can make it work. Let's find a way to make this happen." The conversation was long, filled with negotiations and compromises, but by the end of it, they had reached an agreement. The exhibition would go on, albeit with a few changes to the schedule. Anna left the meeting feeling like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. It wasn't the perfect solution, but it was a solution. As she walked back to the studio, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had faced a setback, but she hadn't let it break her. She had fought for what she believed in, and it had paid off. When she returned to the studio, Grant was there, waiting for her. She couldn't help but smile as she walked toward him. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with relief. Grant grinned. "I knew you would. You're unstoppable." Anna felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had come so far, and with Grant by her side, she knew she could handle whatever came next. It was a reminder that even when things seemed impossible, there was always a way forward. As the day came to an end, Anna stood in front of her studio, looking out at the city skyline. She felt a sense of peace, knowing that the journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, but with the right people by her side, she was ready for whatever the future held. As the exhibition date approached, Anna found herself standing at a crossroads. The hard work she had put into building her dream was paying off, but it was also coming with new pressures. The gallery was buzzing with excitement. The event was drawing near, and all eyes were on her. Despite the sense of accomplishment that had carried her this far, Anna could not shake the nervous tension that gripped her. She had poured everything into the exhibition, and now, she had to make sure it was perfect. In the quiet moments between preparing the gallery and overseeing the last details, Anna would often find herself reflecting on how much her life had changed since she first met Grant. When he had offered her help, she had been unsure, hesitant even. But now, as she stood in her own studio, organizing her art for display, she realized just how much his support had meant. Without it, none of this would have been possible, and the connection they had built over the months was something she hadn't expected but had come to treasure deeply. The night of the exhibition arrived, and Anna stood backstage, her heart pounding. The space was filled with people, the hum of conversations mixing with the soft clinking of wine glasses. Artists, critics, and guests were milling about, admiring the work on display. For a brief moment, Anna wanted to hide, to escape the overwhelming sense of exposure. But she pushed through it, knowing that this was her moment. Grant had been by her side every step of the way, offering guidance and support. He was there tonight, too, standing in the crowd with his usual calm presence. Their eyes met across the room, and Anna felt a wave of warmth. He had always believed in her, even when she had doubted herself. He had pushed her to take risks and follow her dreams, and now she was standing in the midst of a dream come true. As the evening progressed, Anna took a moment to step away from the crowd, seeking some solitude in a quiet corner of the gallery. She leaned against the wall, watching the guests interact with her work, feeling a mixture of pride and disbelief. This was really happening. She had done it. A soft voice broke her reverie. "This is incredible," Grant said, appearing beside her. She smiled, feeling the weight of his words. "Thank you for everything," she said, her voice full of gratitude. Grant smiled back, his eyes soft. "You don't need to thank me. You've done all of this yourself. I'm just glad I could be here to see it happen." Anna felt a wave of emotion as she looked at him. This wasn't just about the art. It was about everything they had shared, the late nights, the support, the belief in each other. She had found something in Grant that she had never expected. Not just a mentor, but a partner, someone who had been there for her in ways she never imagined. As the evening wore on, Anna found herself surrounded by well-wishers, each one congratulating her on the success of the exhibition. The buzz of excitement filled the room, but for a moment, she felt like she was in a dream. This was her life now, and she couldn't be more grateful. She knew the path ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would be new challenges, new obstacles to overcome. But in that moment, standing in her gallery surrounded by people who believed in her, Anna knew she was ready. Ready to take on whatever came next, with the support of those who truly mattered. Later, as the event wound down and the guests began to leave, Grant found Anna once again, standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. "You did it," he said quietly, his voice full of pride. Anna turned to face him, her heart full. "We did it," she corrected him, her eyes meeting his with a quiet certainty. In that moment, she realized just how far she had come. From the uncertain nurse who had been afraid to dream, to the woman standing here now, with a thriving art studio and a bright future ahead. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living her dream. And with Grant by her side, she knew that the best was yet to come. The days following the exhibition were filled with a new kind of energy. Anna's studio continued to grow, attracting more artists, collectors, and patrons who appreciated not just the art, but the story behind it. She had created a space that was more than just a gallery. It was a community, a place where artists could be seen, heard, and supported. And it was all because she had dared to follow her dream. As the weeks passed, Grant continued to be a steady presence in her life. He had always been more than just a benefactor to her. He had become a friend, a confidant, and someone she trusted deeply. They spent countless hours together, discussing business, art, and life. Their connection grew stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they sat in the studio, working on plans for an upcoming project, Anna found herself looking at Grant differently. The bond they shared had been something she never expected, but now it was undeniable. He wasn't just the man who had helped her build her dream. He was the person who had inspired her to believe in herself again. "You've come so far," Grant said, looking at her with admiration. "When I first met you, you were uncertain, unsure of your place. Now, look at what you've built. You should be so proud of yourself." Anna smiled softly, feeling a rush of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice sincere. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You gave me the chance to turn my dream into reality." Grant's expression softened, and he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "You did all the hard work, Anna," he said quietly. "I just helped you see what was already inside you. You're capable of so much more than you know." For a moment, they sat in silence, their hands still entwined. Anna felt a warmth in her chest that she had never experienced before. It wasn't just the success of the studio or the recognition she had gained. It was the realization that she had found someone who truly saw her, who believed in her not for what she could do for him, but for who she was. "I never thought I would find something like this," Anna said softly, her voice tinged with emotion. "I thought I had to do it all on my own. But having you by my side, having the support of people who believe in me, it's more than I could have ever asked for." Grant smiled, a glint of affection in his eyes. "You've always been capable, Anna. You just needed someone to remind you of that. You're never alone in this journey." The weight of his words settled in her heart, and Anna realized just how much had changed. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. She had found success, yes, but more importantly, she had found herself. And she had found someone who cared for her, someone who had shown her what it truly meant to support another person. "I think it's time for a celebration," Anna said, breaking the silence with a grin. "We've come this far, and we deserve to enjoy it." Grant chuckled, squeezing her hand. "I couldn't agree more." Later that evening, they shared a quiet dinner at her favorite restaurant, laughing and talking as the world outside passed by. For the first time in a long time, Anna felt at peace. She had built something beautiful, and she was no longer afraid to embrace it. She had found her voice, her passion, and her purpose, and with Grant by her side, she knew the future was full of endless possibilities. As the night drew to a close and they parted ways, Anna stood outside her studio, looking up at the city skyline. The lights twinkled in the distance, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. She had come so far from where she had started. The journey was far from over, but Anna knew one thing for sure. She was ready for whatever came next. With a heart full of gratitude, a studio full of dreams, and a life that was truly her own, she stepped into the future, knowing that the best was yet to come.